Now I know what you're thinking. Geez, Goshen, 2 Switch Lite videos in one day? Yes, 2 Switch Lite videos in one day. Because as news drops, we got to report on it. So hit the like button, subscribe if you guys are new. Let's talk some more Nintendo Switch. Alright guys, so this article is coming to us from NintendoLife.com, which is a fantastic website for video game news regarding Nintendo stuff. Hence the name Nintendo Life. This article, I thought this was an interesting one because this gives us a little bit more info regarding the whole thing with the Joy-Con drift on the Nintendo Switch. A little bit more detail as how the Joy-Cons work and what Nintendo probably did to try and fix the issue. So this article is titled, "New Theory Suggests Nintendo Has Tried to Prevent Switch Lite Stick Drift After All. The Devil's in the Detail." So there's an awful lot of confusion surrounding the never-ending topic of stick drift at the moment, with some Switch Lite owners suggesting that the new consoles are suffering from the same fate as seen in the original Joy-Con. Things soon escalated when a teardown video of the console shared by Spawnwave suggested that the sticks are identical to those found in the original Joy-Con, and could therefore be susceptible to the same issues. But a second teardown video soon found that there was a small difference in each stick's metal casing. Between the mixed messages and the users' reports flooding social media, which can't always be fully believed, the whole situation has been a bit of a mess. Now we've stumbled across a new theory, however, which we feel inclined to agree with. It doesn't answer why users have been suffering with drift on their Switch Lites, but it does present a valid argument for why the metal casing has been changed on the new console, and suggests that Nintendo has attempted to combat drift issues going forward. In the video below, shared by Twitter user at Gotians, you can see an original Switch which appears to have issues with stick drift, but it soon stops. My thoughts on the Joy-Con drift issue with the hashtag Nintendo Switch. You can see that there is a drifting on my left Joy-Con, stops after a few seconds without touching the analog stick. So let's go ahead and play this video really quick. Anytime now. So this is drifting, and then it just stops. Okay. Gotians' theory argues that the change in the metal casing, which is essentially a small bump in the middle, has been put in place to prevent the stick spring from getting stuck in an incorrect position. In the original Joy-Con models, the metal part was a completely flat surface, which potentially causes the spring to slide around and get trapped away from its neutral spot. This new casing seems to fix the spring to the center. So he went up and put 2 pictures, one of the original Joy-Con model, and then I guess an updated one for the replacement stick that he has, and we're gonna see the differences, and there is a noticeable difference. So in this picture, you can see the scratches in the middle of the analog stick with the drifting issue, not the black parts. So you can clearly see there's scratch marks on there. So it's a metal plate that the spring sits on top of, and as you move the joystick, the spring moves along with it. So with nothing to fixate the metal spring on, then the metal spring is just going to move around. This is because the spring inside the stick slides when you move the stick. When the spring stucks, this can prevent the stick from going back to 0. When the spring gets stuck, this can prevent the stick from going back to 0. Then he's got more pictures showing the replacement one that he received. In this picture, you can see my replacement stick on the right and the original on the left. The lower pic shows the one from the Switch Lite. Both the replacement stick and the one on the Switch Lite have bumps in the middle. Okay, so that's... We're going to open up Twitter here just so we can get a closer look. So you can see right here the bump or indentation where the spring will sit down. This is the spring. So the spring will sit down. I'm guessing the larger side on the bottom. That would make the most sense. Although, to be fair, that spring, that diameter is way too large for that. That's not going to sit properly. I mean, it'll sit properly, but eventually it will move around and will have those issues. I mean, that bump will help, yes, but unless that bump is going to be the diameter of the, or the inner diameter of the spring, it's not going to hold it in place. Unless you put a smaller spring in there. I mean, that's kind of a, I mean, it's nice to see that kind of tear down, and it's nice to see that there has been some sort of improvement on it, but the problem can still persist. I can see that still happening. So, continuing on, as we noted above, while the theory should hopefully offer some comfort to Switch Lite owners, it still doesn't explain why some users are supposedly experiencing problems with the new machine. I can see the issues still happening, even though that fix has been implemented, because again, that inner bump is not the diameter of the said spring. So if it's not the diameter of the said spring, the spring is still going to move around and get dislodged. Now, as far as the concerns with the Switch Lite, some have speculated that the people who are having the issues on the Switch Lite may in fact have the older model Joy-Cons in there, because yes, this is an updated Joy-Con replacement that you see here with the notch inside of it, but you have to think that going back, how long has the Switch Lite been in development for? How long have they been planning this Switch Lite out, and when did production actually start for these models? Because we've had leaks of the Switch Lite since late last year, and with that being said, production could have started probably early this year, and they could in fact be using old models of the Joy-Cons, and that could be one of the reasons why people are having problems. I can't say for sure, because I didn't buy the Switch Lite for this specific reason, because of the Joy-Con drift issues, because I have my own kind of internal rule where I typically don't buy consoles day one release. I wait usually 4 to 6 months. Usually, you know, it's just a rule that I kind of go by, because there's always going to be some sort of issues. The PS3 I didn't buy until about like 2 years after it got released. The PS4 I waited about I think I waited about a year after it got released. So, you know, things like that, especially when you have the regular Nintendo Switch having issues with Joy-Con drift, and then you have a Switch Lite, and the fact that Nintendo themselves haven't gone out to fully address the concerns and the issues with the Switch, with the original Switch model. You know, I honestly, I feel like that's something that they need to address publicly. Yes, doing a fix like this with the little notch inside of it is a step in the right direction. Again, I can still see it having issues. You look up here, this is the way that the original model was designed. You see the spring was moving around. So, with that being said, if you look at it internally, it's not, to me, it's not a permanent solution, because I can see it still having problems. And then the other thing too is, like, okay, so if you look at this, the way that the scratch marks are, that leads me to believe that the smaller diameter is actually what's going in there, not the larger one. So if that's the case, if it's a smaller diameter going down there, again, even if that still fits in there, because now you have it kind of disproportional, I can see it still coming loose. Because let's be honest, it's a metal spring. What happens to a metal spring if you constantly depress it, constantly expand it, constantly move it around? It's going to lose its shape, and it's going to lose its form. It's going to become weaker over time. So I can still see it having those kind of issues. You know, that's what happens when it's poor design, really. You know, it's one of the reasons why we now have computer mouse that they're lasers. They're not. We're no longer on the ball form for the movement, because it's inefficient. It just collects dirt, collects dust, and you know, this is a much more efficient model. Now, yes, I'm not going to say that Nintendo should go ahead and implement laser technology into it. While it would be more accurate and it would have less issues regarding mechanical parts, it wouldn't be cost effective. It would cost more money to do that. So I'm not suggesting that they do that, although they could. It would be a good solution, and it, then you wouldn't have these problems anymore. But at the end of the day, we need a solution for this. They need to address it, and this being brought into light is a good step in the right direction. So thank you to Gotians Switch. I'm actually going to give you a follow on Twitter for that information that you were able to provide us. And let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. Make sure you hit the like button, subscribe if you guys are new. Let's have that conversation, and I will catch you all later. You guys have a great rest of your day. Peace out, guys. Good game.